Welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a client-server network using two virtual images. The first image is for Server 2012 and you can get a trial version of this from Windows to allow you to test out the system. They will provide you with a serial key which is required for Server 2012. You can also download a version of Windows 7 ISO which does not require a serial. Okay, but after 30 days we'll ask you to activate it. You will also need a copy of either VMware or Virtualbox. I prefer Virtualbox and that can be downloaded from virtualbox.org. If you wish to use Virtualbox, do not download Virtualbox 5.1 as it has a few compatibility issues. So if you click on the downloads on the left and scroll down to Virtualbox older builds, click on that, go to 5.0 and download 5.028. If it's for Windows, click on this version, Intel, click on this version, Solaris and Linux. Okay, and make sure you download the extension pack. Install the Virtualbox first and then install the guest editions afterwards. Now if you wish to try this out on a real machine, if you have a spare machine or a laptop that you want to put this on, you can download the Windows 7 USB DVD download tool, point it to the ISO file that you are using and either burn it onto a DVD or a USB. USBs are quite cheap and I would recommend an 8GB USB in order to use this effectively. As you can see, I'm also running version 5.028, so I'm using the exact same version as you guys. When it starts up, you'll see a little blue new icon. Click it. Type in server. This will be our server in our client server network. The type is Windows and version will be 2012, 64-bit, because it's server 2012. We'll accept the default, so we click next, click create, leave it as it is, next, next, and create. We will do the same again, but this time we will call it client. The version will be Windows 7, 64-bit. You can do 8, 8.1, and 10 as long as it is a 64-bit version. Click next again, next, 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 and create. I prefer Windows 7 as it doesn't require as much resources and if we're running two virtual machines at the same time, it will not slow down our machine. Click on the server, go to settings, down to storage, CD drive, click the icon here and point it to choose virtual optical disk file and find the Windows 7 ISO, the Server 2012 ISO, and click open. Then click OK and press the green button to start the virtual machine. When the virtual machine starts up, it should boot directly into the ISO file as if it was in a real CD drive. If this was again done on a real machine, whether you're using a USB or a DVD, you would need to manually tell it to boot from the USB or the DVD. Once the setup window starts, the language cannot be changed, but we can change the time and currency to the one that's best for you, and that will change the keyboard as well. Then click next. We will now click install now. Wait for the setup is starting option, and the next window will require you to input the serial key that you have taken from the internet. As I said, if you got a trial version, you will have a 90-day serial key that you can put in here, okay? Or if you're in universities, they tend to have lab versions that you can use. So once you've inputted your serial key, click next, and I will move on to the next stage. Once you've inputted your serial key and click next, it will ask you which operating system you want to install. It will ask you if you want standard server core or standard with a GUI. The server core is the command version and the GUI has a user interface. That is the version we will be using, so click that and go next. It will ask you to accept the license term. Depending on the version of Windows you are using, you will either have a long license key or end user license agreement, or you'll have a short one like myself. Tick the I accept and click next. We want a custom install as this is our first operating system, and it will locate the hard drive with no space on. If you have space on your hard drive, the best option is to click them and click the advanced option and delete, and then click next. There is no requirement to make partitions as Windows will do it for you. Click next, and then it will start by loading the operating system. The operating system can take quite a while to install. Okay, so leave it to run and come back in about 10 minutes and you will find it is more than likely installed or very close to installing. By now you should have installed Server 2012. You'll notice it is telling you have to use the built-in administrator account. That's normal because the admin has full rights to everything. So you need to ensure that the password you provide meets the complexability requirements for Server 2012. So it needs a capital letter, okay, a symbol, and a number. So mine, if you click this icon, is actually P@SSW0RD. And then I make sure that I put in the same password underneath and click finish. Now in a lab environment that password would be perfect, okay, because nobody's really gonna hack it, nobody's gonna have access to it. If you're doing this on a real machine, so a real server, you want to make sure you put something that's not easily guessed, okay, and meets the requirements. Now while I'm waiting for that to finalize, I'm going to start making my client machine. So the client machine I did earlier, which was Windows 7, make sure it's in blue and click settings. Now I'm using Windows 7 because it doesn't require a serial key. Okay, it gives me a 30-day trial built in. Windows 8, I believe, requires a serial key before you can install it, the same as Server 2012. And Windows 10 also allows me to skip it and gives me a 30-day trial. So there's two things going at once. It's been a little bit slow. But when you click the settings, you wait for the window to open, like so. Down to storage again, onto the empty CD drive, and click the option to choose virtual optical disk file. Point this location to the Windows 7 ISO file. That's why it's always a good idea to keep them in the same folder. Open. Wait for the name to change to the name of the ISO file. Click OK. Wait for it to save. And then press green to start. Okay, wait for the Windows 7 to load up. Should automatically boot into the Windows 7 ISO file. As you can see, Windows is loading files. Okay, I wouldn't advise you running two virtual machines at the same time, just for the purpose of this video to keep the timings down. Okay, I am running two at the same time. Okay, as you can see by mine, it is going very slow because I'm now sharing my real resources with two virtual machines. Okay, this will work, like I say, on Windows 7, 8 or 10. Okay, because it's a server that we actually that matters. Okay. So just wait a couple of seconds for this to load. And then you'll see it looks like it's starting into Windows 7, which is normal. Okay, change the time and currency to UK. Language, English. Keyboard, United Kingdom. Click Next. Then click the Install Now option. Wait for the setup to start. Now my version won't ask me for a serial key. Your version might, okay, but you should be able to skip it. Okay, again, I get a smaller license because I'm using the Enterprise Edition. Click Next, then click Custom. You can see the hard drive I created earlier, and click Next. And that's it. Now I can just minimize it down, wait for it to finish. Okay, and back to server 2012, where it's now accepted the password and it asks me to press Ctrl and Delete to sign in. So if I go to Input, Keyboard, insert Ctrl and Delete. Okay, then put in the password that I changed, as you can see, and click Enter. We then wait for the administrator account to be made, okay, and wait for the Preparing Windows option, and then just wait for us to sign in. Okay, wait for your virtual machine to load back up. If it takes a few minutes, don't worry, it's completely normal. Okay, but when you get to this screen, click Input, Keyboard, and insert Ctrl and Delete, and put in the password that you originally set up once again for your admin account, and sign in. Okay, again, it could take a few minutes for you to sign in, okay, but as you've already set up your account before, it should be fairly quick compared to the first time you signed in. So once you've shut down, you'll notice that the client is still running. That's because I'm currently installing it, but the server is now powered off. Click the server and go to Settings. Now we're going to need two interfaces. Okay, one interface will connect us to the ISP, so BT or TalkTalk, okay, and that will be our external line. The second interface will be connecting to a switch or another computer, okay, or the client, depending on how you have your room set up. So we need two adapters. So to do that, we click Network, and we see adapter 1 is attached to NAT. Now NAT is Network Address Translation. We don't want that option. So what we want to do is make it bridged. Now the bridged is effectively the connection to our real machine, which is our ISP. So this is going to be our internet one. So the best way is unconnect it. Okay, and I'll explain why we've done that in a minute. Then we go across to adapter 2 and enable. We then change attached to host only, which means it's an internal network. So we have our external network and now our internal, and we'll keep that cable connected. So click OK, and then press the green button to start back up again. Wait for your virtual machine to start back up, and then wait until you get to the login screen. Do not press any key to boot from CD or DVD, just ignore it. It will effectively skip it. Okay, if you click any other option, you'll boot back into the CD and you'll effectively have a setup loop. Just wait for it to load back up like normal, okay, and make the changes with the two adapters. Okay, once we've signed back in, we will wait for the network icon to show up in the right hand corner, and it should be showing that we have internet, which it doesn't. It says unidentified network, no internet access, which means there is a problem with what we've set up. But if you right click and open Network and Sharing Center, you'll be able to find out why. Okay, if you remember, we set up two adapters, okay, and we disabled one of them, and one of those was for internet access. So we will wait for the server manager to load up. Again, that could take a few minutes, and we'll wait for the network and sharing center to show up. Once it does, we can click on change adapter settings. Now if this adapter's disabled, then we know that is our internet adapter. So you can see network cable unplugged. Now if you remember, that was the bridge adapter, so that is for the internet. So if you click it, so that it goes in blue, right click and rename, and we'll call that the external, because that is our connection out to the internet, which then must mean Ethernet 2 is our internal. Okay, we can now close that off and close that off. Go back to our virtual machine, so just minimize. While it's still running, it doesn't matter. Ensure it's in blue. Go to settings, down to network, the bridge adapter, which was the internet, advanced, and plug the cable back in, and then click OK. Minimize this, scroll back to the server, and there's my server manager window. In a minute, there we go. We now have internet access, and you can see it is currently showing two adapters. Now when we run the next role, we will combine the two adapters into one adapter. Okay, so it'll see the two adapters and combine them. To do that, because we've already done option 1, configure this local server, I only renamed it, we now go to option 2, add roles and features. Now this is where you get the error message where it says it's collecting data. The wizard will be available after data collection finishes. Now if you remember back to what I said, at the top you see the blue bar, wait until it is finished, and then try clicking again. Okay, once it's collected the information, you can see the bar at the top has stopped moving. Now you might find you have a red icon below, or it might be all green. Just ignore it is the best option. Okay, or you can click events and see exactly what the error is. Okay, but again, as I've said before, this is virtual, so we're not too fussed about it. A restart will usually make it green. Okay, so we then click number 2, add roles and features, which will now allow us to move on because it's collected all the data that it needs. You can disable the built-in event management if you want, so that you will not see any red options there. When this bit then loads up, it says skip this page by default, so let's tick it and then click next. Role based or feature based, yes, that's what we want. Let's click next. It then says server selection, sorry. Okay, you can now see the two IP addresses in my system. Okay, 10.226 private address, 192.168.1.2 also a private address. So one is adapter 1, the internal network, and one is adapter 2. Okay, so we just click next, and we say Active Directory Domain Services. We click on that one because we want to create a computer network. So it'll say add features are required, just say yes, add the features. Once that option is ticked, we then click next. We don't need any more, so we click next. Click next again, tells you a little bit of information, and tick the box that says restart if required. It will say, do you want to allow automatic restarts? Just say yes. And then click on install. You then wait for these services to install. So it'll start by saying start an installation, and it will install. Now if everything installs correctly, okay, it will tell you installation completed. Otherwise it will come up and tell you that installation completed with an error. Okay, if this occurred, then something has gone wrong with your server, okay, and you will need to restart the whole process again to try again. Okay, by the time the installation is finished, you should get a message saying configuration required, installation succeeded on the server. So click close. Now you can see my stuff has gone green. As I said before, just ignore it, it tends to sort itself out. You will see at the top the little flag with an apostrophe in yellow. That is my notifications, so just click it. You can see configuration required. Promote this server to a domain controller. Now by this time, you should have already renamed your server. If you haven't, I recommend you rename it now so that it actually says target server is called server. If you have more than one server, you obviously need to make sure the target server is the one that will be the main domain controller. As this is the first one, okay, we click on add a new forest. If we already had a domain already, so we've already done this stage, we could then say if we wanted to create a new domain on top of it, we can click on add a new domain to an existing forest. Or if you want to add a domain controller to an already existing domain, we click the option here. As it is our first domain, we will create our domain name. So lastname.com.co.uk, .org, whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to have mine as mrtech.com. So just then click next. Okay, the forest functional level, as we're using server 2012 release 2, we ensure we do the highest level we can. Ensure domain name system is ticked and put the password you use to log in to the server. And then click next. Now for DNS options, just ignore it and click next again. We wait a minute for the NetBIOS name to autofill its own information. Okay, we do not want to change the name. Okay, we will just leave it exactly as it is. We would only change this if we had an existing forest and we wanted to point it to the NetBIOS, or we'd have to create another NetBIOS name if we wanted a domain on top of an existing one. So I will just accept the default and click next. When it loads the next stage and it says these are the paths to the current locations, if they don't exist, it will create them. If you have one already, change the path to the existing databases and then click next. You will then be able to see configure as a first Active Directory, the name is mrtech.com, NetBIOS, mrtech, functional level server 2012, and so on, right down to the end. Just then click next, wait for it to run the prerequisites check, and then we will click install once it is finished. You should see an option saying all prerequisite checks passed successfully. The 3 you see here are just warnings. Okay, it then comes up, this computer has at least one physical network adapter that does not have static IP addresses assigned to its IP properties. So that's fine, but it does say in order for this to work, it needs to have a static IP address, should be done to all physical for reliable domain name operation. So before we click install, we will change that option. So we right click the network and go to open network and sharing. Click change adapter settings. On the internal, right click and properties. Change the IPv4. Use the following address. We'll call it 192.168. Sorry, I've got numlock on. 192.168.0.1. Accept it. We don't need a default gateway. And we'll use 127.0.0.1. Okay, as a loopback address for the DNS. And click OK. And then close. So if we close this and close this, we can then say rerun prerequisites check and wait to see if the prerequisite that showed before has now disappeared. We need to ensure we do that before we click install so that the DNS is binded to the internal adapter that our clients will be using to receive the internet, IP addresses and anything else. Okay, now it has come up again. Well, that is fine now because it is seeing the external adapter doesn't have an internal, which is fine. Okay, it's now said prerequisites completed, passed successfully, click install. So let's do that now. Okay, the installation will then start. It will come up with another option to say the current warnings. Okay, that is normal again. Once this is installed, it will automatically restart itself, so just leave it to run and wait for it to restart. While I'm waiting for the installation to finish, I will finish off the Windows 7 installation. So wait, by now it should have installed and it will be asking you for a username. So I'm just going to call mine client, because the original one was server, this will become client. So then click next. Use recommended settings. Ensure that it matches your time zone and click next. Work network and wait for it to finalize the settings. Now in order for this virtual machine to communicate with the server when it's finished, we need to ensure that the settings for the virtual machine is, client one, settings is set for the network is set to host only adapter. And click OK. That will now allow it to communicate with a host only adapter on the server, which we set the 192.168.0.1 IP address on. Okay, you can see that my progress is going along very nicely. We can see it's creating all the Active Directory services I need. Okay, and we will check up on our Windows 7, which is also finalizing. Once Windows 7 has logged in, we will shut it down until we have finished the final stages of the server and then start it back up, where it will then communicate with the server, hopefully, once it is installed correctly. Okay, so wait for this to finalize, wait till you're in the desktop and then shut down the Windows 7. Okay, once you've installed your Active Directory domain services and it's rebooted and you've got back to the sign in menu, click on input and keyboard and once again insert Control Alt Delete. You can now see it says Mr. Tech / administrator. That means my domain has been made. So I use the same password as before and sign in. We then wait for our new domain administrator account to be made and sign us in correctly. Okay, mine will be running a little bit faster now as I've installed my Windows 7 and turned it off. Okay, as you can see, my client is now shut down, which you should also have. Okay, if we hover over the network adapter, you can still see there's two separate adapters. but once again that is normal, and what you should have is one external adapter set to DHCP and one internal adapter with the IP address 192.168.0.1. If you haven't got that, you need to do it now. If you have got two adapters and the loading bar at the top has stopped, click on the Add Roles and Features again. Now we need a role-based feature again, so click Next. Hover over, you can now see 192.168.0.1, the adapter I made before, and the external 10.226, so click Next. It also now says server.mrtech.com. We tick on the DHCP server option, add features, and the remote access option, and nothing popped up. We then click Next. I do apologise about the sniffing. It's winter and it's freezing cold where I am, and I've come down with cold. So click Next and Next again. It says about remote access, so we just click Next again. Role services, tick the routing option to turn us into a router, add features, and click Next. Click Next again, and install. We'll then wait for the installation to install, and then we'll be able to configure the two roles that we've just added, and that will then be my server created. Once we've done that, we'll start up the client server again and see if it communicates with the server. If it does, we have successfully created a client server network, and then you can start by having a look at what other features you can add, such as file servers, so network attached storage. We can have email servers, printer servers, anything you want to deploy out to your clients. You can deal with group policy objects and tell the clients what to do. If you Google options to add to a server, once they're communicating, you can effectively control that client. Okay, once it has finished, it will say launch the DHCP post install window. So just click complete. Click next, accept the defaults and click commit, and then close. Check if there's anything else, which there isn't, and close. Then go back to the notifications, click on this and ignore it. Okay, we can now close off the server manager. If you now click the start icon, administrative tools, we will start with DHCP. Double click it, press the arrow here, click on IP4, right click, new scope. Click next, put in IP, next, 192.168.0.2, because we're using 192.168.0. We'll just say 50. Click next. No exclusions, so click next. We'll let them have the IPs for 1 day, so just change that to 1. Next. It says configure DHCP, just say yes, next. Default gateway, 192.168.0.1, because that's me. Click add, and next. DNS is already in, that's good. So just say yes, next. Next. I want to activate, yes, click next, and finish. You can now see the scope. If you double click it and go to scope options, there should be 3 options. Router 192.168.0.1, DNS 192.168.0.1, domain name mrtech.com. Now it needs to be 192.168.0.1 because that was the address of the adapter there. And the final stage is to scroll down to routing and remote access and double click it. Now this goes to show why we created the external adapter. Click the server, right click configure and enable. Next, we change it to network address translation. next. Which one connects to the internet? The external, one in brackets with DHCP. Click next and finish. Wait for it to activate. It should become green. Just give it 2 seconds. Again, this bit taking a while is normal. It goes through a couple of sweeps, a couple of options, and we now have a green upwards pointing arrow. We can click it down, and you can see all this stuff in there. That's fine. Close it, and close that. Now what we want to check is that we have internet. So if we press start and go to Internet Explorer, can we browse the internet? Okay, we wait for it to open. Click Ask Me Later. In there, type in, just go to Google. Say OK. Continue to this website, not recommended. Click OK. And close. That is normal because we shouldn't really be browsing the internet on a server, but we retrieved the google.co.uk icon. So click close. Now we know we have internet now. Okay, so let's just minimize this. Go to client and start. Okay, the server is still running. Don't press any key again, just wait for it to load up. Now if you set a password during this stage, okay, you'll need to sign in with a password. I haven't, so that mine should auto boot into Windows 7 for me, and then it will start negotiating to try to locate a server, which if it works correctly, it will pick up my server located here and ask me what I wanted to do with the server. Now I want to go through this stage with you to see, so you can see I haven't made any changes, I haven't done anything, okay, and it should negotiate correctly. So this is going to take a few minutes, again because I'm now running 2 virtual machines, but it's just a waiting game to make sure it works. Okay, you are seeing exactly the same as me, as I said, so you can see I haven't fiddled it. If you have followed my steps, it should work correctly. Okay, so as I said, I have not set a password, so it logs in automatically. Okay, hopefully yours should be a little bit quicker than mine. Okay, so I'm logged in. It's negotiating for network. Please pick it up. This is where you beg. It's found something. Select a location for the MrTech.com network. It's a work network, so it's picked up the network. And one final thing is to see if my client has the internet. We don't like to use Internet Explorer, but for the purposes of this, we will use it. Okay, Microsoft.com, will it load? There we go, we have the internet. Thank you very much for watching my video. I've been Mr. Tech. I hope you've learnt something new, and you've been watching my client server video. Thank you very much.